Welcome to Valley Newsline, the week of March the 4th, 2007. Hello, I'm your host, Ron Whitlock. The topic of this program today deals with the U.S.-Mexican border's role in maintaining a strong U.S. economy. After helping to weld part of the U.S. and Mexico fence at Arizona, President Bush's Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff then flew to Laredo, Texas, there to hear that the salvation to America's economic future and jobs for Americans lies in immigration reform, a guest worker program, and securing the U.S.-Mexico border without killing the U.S. economy. With the backdrop of commerce, cars and trucks coming to the United States slowed to a crawl, which you will see moving from left to right across your screen because of Homeland Security's inspection process, Secretary Michael Chertoff was advised that the traffic behind them represents billions of dollars to the U.S. economy. That observation made by Laredo's Mayor Raul Salinas.
What's important is to not forget that 10,000 trucks come across every day, which creates billions of dollars every year. So we have to put things in perspective, but I'm so delighted, Mr. Secretary and Congressman, Senator, I thank you very much for being here, because Texas is the pulse of America, the economic development and the trade and so forth.
I think what we ought to look at is putting the dollars so we can have those lines that everybody can see out there, so you can have the folks that are trying to come in for a legitimate purpose come in legally and spend the money up here. You know, I'd rather have people spend money at the malls and the stores than have them spend time at the bridges, because a lot of times that's where they're spending their time. Instead of spending money at our malls and stores, they're spending money at just waiting on the bridges.
As jobs continue to be lost across the United States, particularly in the U.S. auto manufacturing sector, which is hedging its bet with plants in China and partners there, the focus has now come to South Texas. A border visit by Secretary Michael Chertoff made it clear that the President of the United States, former Texas Governor George Bush, understands the importance of unimpeded flow of traffic between Laredo, Mexico, and Laredo, Texas, United States. In response to my question and other comments made, Secretary Chertoff makes it obvious that he's aware that his boss, the President of the United States, knows the importance of business and commerce at the border.
As the President has said, we've got to have a total solution to the problem, and that means addressing the economic forces that are bringing the vast majority of these migrants across the border into the country. You know, this particular region obviously knows that no one is better acquainted with the particular challenges and the opportunities of the border than our president, who, having been governor of Texas, really knows this area in a way that only those who are from around here understand. So he's very much committed to using this approach.
Would you agree or consider setting up a meeting with President Bush, your boss, Senator Cornyn, and Congressman Cuellar to see what maybe you could do and the executive branch could do at the cabinet level to grant Mexican Americans and Mexican nationals 6 months visitation parity so they can come spend more money, like the Mayor of Laredo talked about, help the economy, see what you could do maybe administratively to incorporate, say, guest worker program, which we had in the Valley called the Bracero program years ago. Also, another item on that list, if you could see fit to have a meeting with the President, would be one to talk about securing our water and air. If you're really worried about securing these people who live along the border, mainly Mexican Americans, water and air, as I talked to you about when you were at the Valley a few months ago, totally insecure. The air you're breathing now, as I told you before, was Mexican air a few minutes ago. The water behind you, sole source water for this community, comes out of that river. It's totally unsecure. If your department and this government is really concerned about securing these citizens, worry about our water and air, not about stopping these people who want to come across and take these jobs that they need to fill.
Well, let me say this. First of all, there's nobody who I think has a keener appreciation for the needs of the communities down here and or has more respect for our citizens down here of all backgrounds than the president, who was governor here and who repeatedly talks to the public, as well as talks privately, about the need to make sure we are a welcoming society. Now, obviously, that means security for everybody, and we do need to get control of our borders. I think it's something that's long overdue, and I think we're well on the way in making some progress in that regard. There's also obviously a need for legislation to deal with the issue of temporary worker program, and we're looking forward to working with Congress on that. Senator, you want to?
Well, I would just add that we talked at our meeting about the importance of parity between Canadian visitors and Mexican visitors who come over using the laser visa. As you recall, we were successful in working with Secretary Chertoff's predecessor to get an expansion for Mexican nationals coming across from 72 hours to 30 days. And if I heard him correctly, Secretary Chertoff agreed that our goals should be ultimately to have all of our visitors, no matter where they come from, enter under the same rules and the same time limit. And that is an objective that we all share.
As the United States worries about its economic future and providing jobs for its people, Congressman Henry Cuellar, a member of the Homeland Security Subcommittee, specifically pointed out to us and to President Bush's cabinet member the importance of not slowing down commerce at the Laredo land port.
This time we have a different background. We're looking at the mix of people that are trying to come across. The tourists, the buses that we have, just as an example here in Laredo, we have 100 buses a day times 40, at least 40 people. That would tell you what we're facing in the commercial traffic, the non-commercial traffic, and I think the mayor knows this very well. So I feel very confident that having the right mix of technology, personnel, infrastructure will go a long way. And if there's a person, like Senator Cornyn said, a person that will be able to do this, and this is Secretary Chertoff.
But some border leaders were intentionally excluded from the discussion with Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff. Following the brief photo op of President Bush's Homeland Security chief, I asked Congressman Henry Cuellar to explain his actions to assure that business stakeholders along the U.S.-Mexico border were heard from during Chertoff's visit to the region. You're a business person, you're a businessman, yet the business community and the stakeholders here along the border in the business environment and in that area of our economy are being frozen out from being involved in this whole process. When Secretary Chertoff came to Laredo, you had to work valiantly to get any business people into that meeting. Tell us about that. You were the hero in Laredo because you kind of forced the issue to get some business people into that meeting to tell Secretary Chertoff exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
Why the stonewalling? Why does our government and Secretary Chertoff and Senator Cornyn, who was also a part of that meeting, not want to talk to business people about the problem?
Well, we have been asking the Secretary's office that we wanted to have business people in there because it's so important. I mean, we need to hear from mayors, we need to hear from county judges, we need to hear from sheriffs, we need to hear from other public officials. But if we don't get the private sector involved, we're missing the large, the area that's going to get impacted the most from our actions in Washington. And that's why at that particular meeting, when I was told no, that they were not going to come in, I basically said, guess what? You guys, private business, you're my guest, you come in with me, and if they tell me no, then we all walk out together.
So that was it. You didn't ask permission, you didn't ask for forgiveness. You just forced the issue.
You have to, because, this is...
Why is it necessary for you as a congressman to force our elected officials, Senator Cornyn, who was there, and Secretary Chertoff, who's an appointee of the President of the United States, our former governor, to try and hear those issues as it relates to affecting commerce by U.S. visit and all the things you're doing at the border?
Yes. Well, I don't know.
Why should it be necessary for you to do what you had to do?
Well,
you ignored them basically and just brought them anyway.
Yeah, and I think, sometimes we have to take certain steps and say we're going to do it this way, because you cannot have a valued conversation with the people that are going to be making decisions that are going to be affecting our lives and then leave the private sector out of this. And I thought it was wrong. And like I said, it was just very simple. I said, you're my guest, you're walking in with me, and we'll take it from there.
Do they not understand that the golden goose of the U.S. economy starts right here at the border in Laredo? 10,000 trucks coming daily with commerce, U.S. goods going to Mexico and coming back, driving the U.S. economy engine?
Well, I hope they understand that where they get a lot of the revenues to run government are from the custom duties and the fees that are paid at the border, and therefore it's a great generator of dollars of revenues to the federal government, and I think they need to pay a lot of attention to the areas that generate dollars to the federal government. But at the same time, it generates the economic development that's so important to our border. Look what's happened to the border because of trade and this tourism that we've had. Our border economy has gone where we used to have double-digit unemployment rates here in the valley and the border has now been reduced to almost single digits.
Laredo's Mayor Raul Salinas and McAllen's Mayor Richard Cortez feels that Secretary Michael Chertoff needs to know the border's issues.
Some of the things that we'll be addressing with the Secretary tomorrow with the other border mayors. And I think one of the things that we're trying to push is the immediate enactment of a comprehensive immigration reform bill. I think that's really needed. I think, there's a lot of people that want to work, that want an opportunity to help their families, and the things that are the recommendations, obviously, as I see the increase of not only border patrol, but law enforcement officials all along, the border is something that we're going to address with the Secretary tomorrow. And these are very, very good things. One of the things that now we have on our side is the fact that we have a congressman that's going to be able to help us with funding, and we're going to make sure that we tap into those. And I think when we're talking about a wall, I think we want to talk more about a virtual wall than the wall within the proximity of the city limits of our city. I mean, I think we want not to have something that's intrusive, but I think the more visibility we have, the more equipment that the sensors and so forth. And I was talking to the Border Patrol today, asking them about the feasibility of having them, and I know I may get in trouble here because the chief is looking at me like a helicopter, and and it's something that it's very feasible, but I want to make sure that we get the resources that we need, and sometimes things are misunderstood. I don't think anyone is pushing for illegal immigration. We want to make sure that our citizens are safe, and but you also have to have some flexibility, and the flexibility comes in through appropriate legislation, and to recognize that there is a need for people that want to work, that have a strong desire to work, and why not give them that opportunity? There's a lot of farmers in the Midwest that are just dying to get some of their crops picked and work done that nobody wants to do, and people are willing to do whatever it takes to support their families. And I think if we give them a chance, the more we talk, the more dialogue we have, we can solve problems. When they're talking about spending $49 billion, I think you can spend a few mere millions to do something positive and erect something that's going to beautify it and make things more positive, where our visitors are going to spend lots of bucks here that make them feel welcome. And then we go through the process.
Dennis Nixon, President and CEO of the biggest bank in Texas, International Bank of Commerce, IBC, tells us how the U.S. economy and U.S. jobs depends on immigration reform and a guest worker program, as he reacts to Bush Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff's brief visit to the Texas-Mexican border.
We need to change the tide of the public information more than anything else. I think the American public has been sold a bill of goods on this whole border crisis issue by the Lou Dobbs of this world, the O'Reillys, the Sean Hannitys, all these individuals who are really demonizing the Mexican population and the Latino population, and demonizing the relationship we have between the United States and Mexico. And I think we need to stand up and be vocal about this and talk about the positive elements. You and I know, as residents of the border, that we could not survive economically without our friends to the south. We'd be a wasteland here without the economic support we get from these people. And so, we have a dog in this fight, which really we've got to preserve and we've got to work on. And I'm just delighted to see the mayors step out and the county judges step up and come together in a unified way, everybody basically saying the same thing. And certainly we worked with them as a business leader to try to format what we think are not only the issues, but also the solutions. We've given them solutions. I've presented a white paper which the Alliance has put together with a lot of input from a lot of people. My name's on it, but there's a lot of thinkers have put their thoughts into that document, and I give credit to all the people involved in Alliance, which are a coalition of business leaders and public officials. So, yeah, we're making some real headway here. I would like to see more of these meetings, because I think as we have more meetings with Chertoff and he hears more commentary and he listens to these things, I think he's going to see the different light on this border. And he admitted that it is a public relations battle. You know, he said we've got to be more visible in the public's eyes, more programs like this, more national media attention, telling the story of the border versus being, you know, basically demonized by people like Lou Dobbs, which is a sad commentary. The reason we have so many illegal immigrants coming in this country is because we have a failed immigration policy, and so we have to solve the immigration policy. If we got the numbers down by having a good legal process, that then we could deal with the few additional illegals that would still come to this country, and that we would be able to put this thing in a proper perspective from an enforcement standpoint. But when we don't have enough workers and we've got a lot of jobs unfilled, my company alone, I have several hundred unfilled jobs. And so for those people who say we have a crisis of invasion of Mexican workers, I like to understand from that group of people who they think is going to do this dirty work in America today that immigrants have traditionally done, not only Latinos, but the Eastern and Europeans are doing, Western Europeans did back in the turn of the century. You know, everybody who transfers from one population base to another population base generally is in the lower socioeconomic ladders, and so you're going to see a continuation of that just as economies prosper and as they grow. You see that natural transfer. So I just think that there's a lot of confusion here that needs to be straightened out, and there's a lot of people saying this is a terrorism issue, for instance. And when they pose that question to me, I ask them, if it's a terrorism issue, then why are we not worried about the 4,000 miles of Canadian border? And nobody has an answer to that. So then I says, well, what is your issue then? Well, it's an immigration issue. Well, then why don't we solve the immigration problem? So you can't get a really defined answers from a lot of people, because you really kind of feel like they're dancing around the issue. And I personally feel a lot of it's just based on pure racism. I think it's a anti-Latino attitude, and I think that there's a lot of it being driven by that kind of mentality.
And even though Homeland Security Chief Michael Chertoff notes that he has been to Laredo half a dozen times, many feel that he's neglected the security of the 1 million U.S. citizens that live along the U.S.-Mexico border on the Rio Grande River in the Rio Grande Valley of South Texas. Senator John Cornyn, however, tells us that Chertoff is going to be coming to the region sometime soon for more than a photo op.
The meeting that we all three attended, along with other border leaders, just a few weeks ago in Washington, D.C., the Secretary said that he would come to the Valley, and sometime the next, I think he said 30 to 45 days, and it'll be more than for just a photo opportunity. Hopefully we'll be able to show him some things that will help inform him and his agency better to try to strike the balance that we're all talking about between trade and commerce, that it benefits this entire region, both sides of the border, and the security that we know is an important part of that balance.
Hopefully, Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff will come through on his commitment to United States Senator John Cornyn to visit the Rio Grande Valley. Newsline suggests that this time, unlike his visit to Laredo, where business stakeholders were intentionally excluded, Michael Chertoff's next visit to the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas specifically be held with business leaders and be open to the public, as all meetings of public officials should be. Till next time, adios.